We'll move on to.
It's good.
Move on to item 3, which is the approval of the agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder to second that the agenda for the municipal planning regular council budget meeting held on March 26th be approved? That the agenda for the municipal planning and regular budget. Not a budget, so that the agenda for the municipal planning and regular council meeting held on March 26th, 2024 be approved. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion's carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none, that'll be duly recorded. Approval of the minutes. And I'm looking for any omissions or errors that were in those minutes. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
The November 14th meeting, I just wonder if the timing is available for when I left the closed meeting and when I returned. And as well for the October 24th meeting, the same.
So that's November 14th and October 24th?
Yes.
Okay. Not sure if we'll have the answer to that right here, but I'm sure the clerk will be able to get that and bring it back to the next meeting.
And just one more.
Yep, thank you.
On the October 24th meeting, the notice of announcements that had to do with me being on an organized tour of Ganaraska Conservation Authority, the trails. I didn't organize it. I was on an organized one that they organized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or thoughts? Go ahead, Mike.
For you, Mayor. October 3rd minutes for the Ontario Street in Lakeport. Are we, any update on that? And I just wondered if we've taken over the Glens of Athens street yet.
I'll ask Dave, you will have an update on Lake Shore or Lakeport Road?
Lakeport Road.
Ontario Street.
And that was, and she'll have it for Glenn's Bantry as well. Is that what I heard you saying? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Good. Is that okay, Mike?
Yep, thank you.
I just had one more that had to do with the October 3rd meeting. And it was page 13 of that agenda. And I'm just wondering if it should read council to direct the mayor and deputy mayor to sign the audit reporting letter, because I did come back in to sign that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mike, you're okay?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. I'll read the next one then. 5.1 is a report from staff directions update. It is recommended the council receive the corporation of the township of Elmwood enact as follows. That report CLK 2024-07-2023 council minutes staff direction updates be received for information. Do I get a mover in a second for that? Moved by Mike, seconded by Greg. Any discussions on that? I guess I was wondering, Dave, will we, couple of things. I noticed there was several times where we made reference to our committees and the terms of reference, and I know you're working on that, but I just wondered if you have some idea when we have that prepared for council?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we are currently doing the review of our committee terms of references as directed by council. So we're looking for by June, sort of to dovetail there with our organizational review.
Thank you.
So late spring, early summer.
Thank you. And the other one I'll ask, our CAO, acting CAO, that's in reference to the, issue regarding electric vehicle charging stations. I know you were doing some work on that. It says it's pending, but is that going to come fairly soon as well, Dave?
Yeah, it's still ongoing, but we will.
Yeah. And I think there was, as I recall, there was some recommendations that the province was going to offer us some at a lower price than what you pay on the market, but you would also were digging into something that there was going to be a supplier from the outside that was going to perhaps look at putting them in for us at no charge.
Mayor, there was a couple different options that were floating around. One was a company that had approached us. My understanding is that there are different levels of quality of charging stations that we need to look at, which would require the input from somebody other than myself. The other thing is, I do believe that the province announced this week that there is some funding available for electric charging station construction.
Good. I didn't know that. Thank you. Any further discussions on this? All in favor? Motion's carried. Are there any business arising from the previous minutes? Go ahead. 5.2. Oh, I'm sorry. Then we'll come back to, then we'll go, okay. So we have to go back to, well, actually 5.2, which is a motion to adopt the council meeting minutes, and those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, probably 20 in total. And I do want to recognize the clerk's department, particularly Yolanda, for all the hard work that she's put up together in those last 3 or 4 weeks to get them all done. Yolanda, that's a big, big challenge. And I know there was some good reasons for getting behind, but I think that's passed. And I want to thank you personally for all of that hard work. Is there still a little bit left? That's great. Thank you very much. So can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any further discussion?
So sorry, through you, Mayor Logal, what we'll do is if you want to get a motion just to approve the minutes as amended. So we'll take into account the comments that we received there about just making those short edits and updates. So in regards to the time about the meeting in and out, if that's available on the Zoom, then we'll add that in and amend where it's there.
I'll reread that. Then. Yeah. It is recommended that the council of the Corporation of Township of Allen enact this subject to amendments as requested by council. If I get a mover and a seconder then? Moved by Councillor Booth, second by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Now we'll go to business arising from the previous minutes. I don't think there's anything been held from these past minutes. Okay. Item 7, we're going to move to the Land Division Committee or the Committee of Adjustments meeting, and I'll read the motion that the Council of the Township of Allen, being a Land Division Committee or Committee of Adjustment, move to a Land Division Committee or Committee of Adjustment meeting at 9:40 a.m. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor O'Neill. Second by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? That motion's carried. We have consent applications. Our first one that we're looking at today is from Keith and Kathy Mott, AH032024, Concession 1, Part Lot 29, geographically in Haldeman, regarding the creation of a vacant rural residential lot. And we have Tracy Webster here, our chief planner, who's going to take us through this application. Go ahead, Tracy.
Good morning. Thank you, to the mayor. The proposed application is located at 144 Gully Road in the township of geographic township of Haldeman on part lot 29, concession 1. We have recommended approval with the typical conditions as well as a requirement for a zoning bylaw amendment, an archaeological site assessment, and a noise impact study. And should the noise impact study require conditions of approval, there's a recommendation for a development agreement as well. The proposal is to sever a vacant rural residential lot with a frontage of 67.99 meters or 223.05 feet and a lot area of 2.10 hectares or 5.18 acres. The subject property is located on the south side of Gully Road near the intersection of Old Gully Road. It currently has an existing single detached dwelling and accessory structures which the applicant intends to retain. Highway 401 is located immediately to the south of the property, and there are residential lots located on the north, east, and west sides of the property. The property does contain field verified wetlands and a tributary of Barnum House Shelter Valley Creek in the western portion of the lands. And there is a valley on the southwest portion of the property, south of the existing residential development. The proposal is in conformity and compliance with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the Northumberland County official plan, and our official plan. The property is currently zoned RU-68 with an environmentally sensitive area in the vicinity of the water course. It permits a wide range of uses, and there's a minimum lot area of 3 hectares and a minimum lot frontage of 100 meters, which is why a rezoning is required to address the reduced frontage and lot area. The applicant was circulated to a number of departments and agencies. The MTO did not provide comments as of the writing of the report, and to date, the Public Works Department noted that an entrance permit will be required for the proposed lot. Lower Trent Conservation had no objection to the approval of the application, and they recommend that the features meeting the Conservation Authorities Act definition of a wetland along with 30-meter regulatory setbacks be put in a restrictive environmental protection zoning. We did go out for a site visit to determine the exact location of where the water course is on the site based on the new definition that will come into effect on April 1st of this year. Northumberland County advised that they have no objection to the proposal, and they advised that a noise study is required in keeping with the NPC 300 guidelines. So that is one of the conditions of approval. And Alderville First Nation advised that an archaeological assessment is required due to the proximity to water courses and wetlands. Notice was sent out to all property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, and a sign was posted on the property on March 5th. We had no written submissions or inquiries on the proposal. So the proposal is in a rural part of the municipality on a year-round maintained municipal road, and both severed and retained lots are appropriately sized rural residential parcels. The wetland that was identified by Lower Trent Conservation and the associated 30-meter setback will will be placed, need to be placed in an environmental protection zone. As noted earlier, we did visit the site, and over the years, the applicant had made modifications to the lot to accommodate drainage, so we just needed to confirm that that didn't meet the definition of a water course. The new location of the water course is shown on figure 1, the beginning where the red dot is. And then it goes, the water course goes southwestward from that. As noted, the severed and retained lots do not comply with the minimum lot frontage and will need to be rezoned, and it'll also, the rezoning will also address the environmental protection requirements. And as noted, it is in compliance with the PPS, the growth plan, and the county and official, and what called an official plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, for that report. I do note that Mr. Mott is in the attendance this morning, and you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions or make comments after when I give you so. Does council have any questions or comments for Tracy? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Logal. I'm just wondering how onerous I'm just getting here, how onerous it is to, and what's involved in a noise study as well as archaeology assessment. That's not a fair question. I apologize. I'm just listening to you. I'm just wondering how onerous it is for the landowner, and will it get him hung up so he can't get going on this?
In my
Sep-
previous place of employment, these are standard typical requirements, and they are like when there's development in proximity to a water course within 300 meters, there are guidelines from the province that for criteria for evaluating archaeological potential. And we also circulate Alderville because they would be aware of where there may be sites that need to be looked at. So when it meets the criteria, Alderville requests for the assessment typically. So the applicant would need to retain an archaeology firm, archaeologist.
Yeah, I get you.
To go out and evaluate the site. So the archaeologist, based on their findings, will determine whether it needs to be a stage 1. And then if they find something, it may bump it up to require a stage 2 and then further a stage 3. So it really depends on the site and the criteria. And I know Alderville has offered in other applications to the applicants can contact them and they can provide some assistance with maybe connecting with people who will do that work. I'm not sure on the cost, but I can just digging and find out. In terms of noise assessments, that's also something that's very common when a proposal is in proximity to the highway because of the sound that you get from the highway. There is an environmental noise guideline from the province and PC 300, and it sets out the sound levels that are appropriate for sensitive land uses. So noise consultant would go out onto the site with technical equipment to measure the decibel rate of the sound that comes from the highway. And based on that finding, would need to make recommendations. I've seen in past experience where if it's very close, they may need to do noise fencing. I know on this site, there's a lot of vegetation. If that vegetation is going to remain, maybe that acts as a good buffer. I've seen situations where recommendations come back saying a house has to be designed with forced air heating and air conditioning so that
Open the windows.
they have the ability to cool the house without opening the windows and being impacted by the sound. So based on the results of that study, if there are specific recommendations, we would then have to enter into an agreement to register that on the property. So future homeowners are aware. Sometimes there's the need for warning clauses. Hope that wasn't
Oh.
too much information.
Yeah, just another short one. I do know on that stretch, there's 5 houses already or 4. The frontage is 223 feet, and uh, when you're saying that the frontage is reduced, am I reading that right? I just wondered, is that because of the wetland?
Well, the zoning, or through the mayor, sorry, the zoning on the property is a very specific zone category. It
Okay,
likely was put in place at the time they did a previous severance, and sometimes we call it shrink wrapping of zoning, where somebody would look at the proposal and write the regulations based on what
Ah.
the proposal is. So they wrote the lot frontage at 100 meters
oh,
minimum, so.
I
the
see,
zoning
okay,
will have to address the frontage, but as well as the environmental protection. requirements.
thank you.
Welcome.
Mike, do you have a question?
Yes, to you, Mayor. I also had some concerns about the archaeological study and the noise study. So, but I did get some answers there. So I'm wondering, do we have any history on that area with those houses that are there that can maybe lessen the cost for the owners if we had some kind of background where maybe this has been done in that same area? Because there is some fairly new houses in that area.
I can have a look through the mayor. I know that with the provincial policy statement, there are specific requirements for us to consult. There's the duty to consult with First Nations. So depending on where those previous applications came in, whether that was the case back when they were created, I can have a look and see. If that was done, I think perhaps maybe the recommendation could be refined to state to the satisfaction of Alderville First Nation. That way, if we do uncover something that will maybe satisfy them without the need to go further, then we can have that ability to be flexible. But I want to make sure, like, it's in my recommendation that I want to make sure that they're the requirement is that it is a specific criteria from the province, Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, that, you know, if it's within 300 meters of a water course or a wetland, that we should be evaluating it. So I can definitely look back at the history to see if there's anything that will be of benefit.
Dave?
Yeah,
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Ainsworth and Deputy Mayor Stover. So the identification of the archaeological assessment is specifically First Nations right to do so. In past applications, what I've seen through Tracy is that merely a letter comes back and says that they have no interest on this property. So it is provincial policy that we have to do it. And because that it's a box that we do need to check. And so part of the process is to merely send them information that this is happening, and it gives them the opportunity, but it is a right.
Thank you.
yeah, no, I totally understand that, but I would like to see is, you know, if we could do some history on the area, we might be able to come up with that answer for them. Because I mean, there's 4 or 5 houses right there on both sides of the road that aren't very old. So it'd be nice if we could just like lessen the blow for the resident when it comes to these severances and some of these extra studies.
So just for clarity, through you, Mayor, Councillor Ainsworth, we cannot do anything on behalf of First Nations. It's their right. They have the right to do it, and we have the responsibility to notify. And there's very clear guidelines there.
I'd also like to see a reason. You know, much like the Lower Trent Conservation or the county puts down, there are reasons that that they're okay with the severance or they're not. I would like to see that where if Alderville First Nations is putting something in here that they could put a reason why they're asking for it. And if they use words like should or may, to me, it's not. It doesn't tell me that it must be done. So just my opinion. And again, I'd like to see if we have some history on it that we could use.
Okay, we can do that. Any other further comments from council? Mr. Mott, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I would actually.
You can come up, we're on screen, so we're on TV, so you look good anyway, so it looks like you're prepared for it.
Yeah, I with Tracy with the conservation people came out and we had the talk. Councillor Booth was at my place a year or so ago and I mentioned about the ditch in front of our house. It's a ditch that goes north of us, right over the old gully. But when it comes to my property, it's turned into a water course for some reason, and I don't know why. And I'm not trying to disagree with the Trent Valley people, but it's a ditch up there and it's a water course where I am. There's no water course, it's a ditch. As you know, on those roads, there's no ditches. It all flows through that little bit and through my property. And it's a ditch, it's not a water course. But that's just my opinion. I'm not the Trent Valley people. But it's a ditch. And if you can walk that ditch right up to Old Gully and you'll see it crosses Old Gully into a ditch. And there's no other spot. So what's that ditch? But that's my opinion anyways. And as far as the noise bylaw goes, and you're looking into it anyways, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 new houses west of me. They must have had a noise study done. Can we not just use their noise study and say, okay, the noise up there isn't bad, so this building site here is further away from 401. Could we not just duplicate it? That's a question I'm asking.
But just so you know, when we do that, this is going to probably prevent us from passing this today.
Well,
And I don't know if you're in any hurry or not, but.
I'd like to see it done, but there's some questions I'd like to get answered too.
Okay,
Like with like Mike and Joan brought up about the First Nation people, and I'm not against the First Nations at all, but and you said we can't back away from that, so whatever we can do. I appreciate it.
okay. Go ahead.
Through your workshop, I just wanted to confirm what you're saying, Mr. Mott, that it is a ironic situation that last year when I came over there and looked at it, because the melt was really bad, you basically had a water course there. This year, when I drive by, there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's dry as anything, right? So it just depends on the snow and how fast it melts, whether you actually have a water course or you have nothing, right? So I agree with what you're saying.
But is it dead?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mike,
Through you, Mayor. So just to clarify too, the Lower Trent Conservation is going through a new regulation. It's 4124. And it literally starts to describe what a wetland or a creek is. So what Mr. Mott is talking about, this new regulation probably covers something like that. So I guess I'm just trying to like an update from the Lower Trent. So it's probably not an issue. Tracy will probably know a little bit more about it too also, but it's very new. I don't even think it's been fully signed yet, but it is coming through. We just got notification on it at our last meeting.
well, if you're getting notification, it should be almost approved, but.
Yeah.
Tracy's and the Lower Trent are giving the information that they have today. And if you want to wait till find out what that is, we can do that, I would think. Would we, Tracy?
There, we did visit the site and the Lower Trent looked at the ditch, and there is a water course that is on the site, but it's further to the southwest where it starts, and they looked at it based on the new definitions that are going to be in effect based on, was it regulation 421 that comes into effect on April 1st. So the zoning will refine the limits as to where that is based on the new definitions. So I'm confident that there's enough area outside of where the features are to accommodate a footprint.
Okay. Anybody else have any more questions or comments? Go ahead, Mike.
So Mayor, through you, I'd like to defer this application until we have further information on it.
I'll ask,
And that would be for the, if there's any history on the noise and the archaeological study.
yes, we can ask that, the planner investigate that and see what she comes up with. So I've got a motion on the floor to defer this decision until we get some answers back, and first one is regarding the noise, and the second one is regarding whether the First Nations will give approval without doing a study, if we have some information to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, and also do we have some history on that? Because of, I mean, there's literally houses. You know, you could,
It's gonna be, I think it's, Mike, it's gonna be up to Alderville to say, you know, we don't need the sign or the inspection anymore, because
Okay.
I don't think we can make that decision. That not be done, correct?
okay,
I would, through the chair or mayor, I would make a recommendation without their, without consulting and having.
And their
their-
approval. Okay.
Could I,
Somebody want to
could I,
second that?
could I just ask one more clarification? I'm just need a clarification. Are we here to, if we defer it, is that going to be an issue because you're wanting to rezone it because of the frontage? The reduced frontage by less than some feet? Or if we defer it, is it going to slow things down for the gentleman?
Through the mayor, the, one of the conditions of approval is for rezoning where we would apply a specific frontage, but also identify the specific limits of the environmental features of the water course and the wetlands and the required 30-meter buffers from those features. So the consent application would be approving the creation of the lot, and then the rezoning would come back at a later date to determine the limits of zone boundaries.
So through your Mayor, deferring it isn't going to slow it down at all.
I don't believe so, and that's the, you know, it would give us time to look at the history of other studies that were done. I don't know whether that would benefit the applicant if we don't uncover anything at this point. Thank you.
So I got a mover. Do we have a seconder to defer? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? The motion's carried. Thank you, Mr. Mott. We're going to move on then to item 9, minor variation application. And this is for Meredith and Sophia Masrick. And Mr. and Mrs. Masrick are here this morning. It's MB 022024 102 North Shore Road, concession B, part lot 23, geographically in Haldeman. Tracy, anytime you're ready.
Through the mayor, application MV 02-2024 is on the Shore Road on the north side at the very west end of the road. They have requested to reduce the westerly side yard setback from 6 meters to 3.66 meters and the easterly side yard setback from 6 meters to 2.44. Again, the Alderville First Nation had requested a archaeological site assessment to be prepared, and the Northumberland County requires a sewage system design and construction drawings prepared by a licensed sewage system installer or designer in accordance with the Ontario Building Code, and those would be conditioned. So the recommendation for approval is conditional on receipt of those two items. The subject property is a vacant residential lot in a plan of subdivision that was registered in 1965. I did check the file and there hadn't been an archaeological assessment done for that development. The proposal is for the construction of a new single detached dwelling with an attached garage. The property, as mentioned, is on North Shore Road. There is a vacant lot immediately to the east, and beyond that, there are single detached dwellings on the south side and north side of North Shore Road. On the south side is the shore of Lake Ontario. There is an agricultural parcel to the north and west of the property. And beyond the agricultural lands to the west is the Nawatin subdivision. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and growth plan and the county and township of Almut-Cullinan official plan. The Planning Act and the official plan sets out 4 tests for evaluating a minor variance application, which are that they must be minor. The variance must be desirable and appropriate for the development or use of the land. It must meet the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and it must meet the general and intent and purpose of the official plan. The subject property is zoned rural residential with an HL suffix. The HL stands for hazard land, and it recognizes that lots may be subject to natural hazards related to Lake Ontario. Development on those lots require the approval of the Conservation Authority. The Conservation Authority did look at the lot, and it is outside of the hazard limits in terms of their regulation. The proposed variance seeks relief from section 7.2.5 of the zoning bylaw, which requires a minimum side yard depth of 6 meters, whereas 3.66 meters is proposed on the west side and 2.44 meters is proposed on the east side. The lot is smaller in lot area and frontage than what is permitted in the rural residential zone. However, there is a section 4.12 that permits the use of lots that are lesser in lot area and frontage where they pre-existed the zoning bylaw. The property has a lot area of 0.17 hectares and a frontage of 25.7 meters. The frontage is less than what would be required in a similar zone, the Hamlet residential zone, which has a lot frontage of 30 meters. And when comparing the side yard requirements in that zone, it is required to be 3 meters, which is consistent and similar to what the proposal is. For the HR zone, this lot, when you're comparing it, has a less 5 meters less frontage than what that minimum required frontage is. So I've determined that it's appropriate when comparing regulations for lots with a similar size. The application was circulated to departments and agencies. Enbridge Gas and Public Works advised that they had no concerns with the proposal. The Lower Trent Conservation Authority advised that existing mapping indicates that there are no identified natural hazards on the subject land. Further, there are no features or areas on the subject lands that would be regulated by Lower Trent, subject to their regulation, and they have no objection to the approval of the application. County Planning did not object to the proposed variances, subject to the condition for the licensed sewage system installer or designer to provide a design for the proposed single detached dwelling. And then First Nations did require an archaeological assessment due to the proximity of Lake Ontario. The balance of the agencies did not comment on the application. The notice of the application was circulated to all registered owners within 60 meters of the property, and a sign was posted on March 5th. No comments were received and no inquiries were received on the application. In reviewing the application against the 4 tests, it is determined that it is minor. The variance is minor. The reduction in the side yard setback has a good relationship with the front lot frontage of the property and is similar to what is provided for other dwellings in the neighborhood. The variance is desirable and appropriate for the land. The variance will facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling on an undersized lot. The proposed footprint is 245.26 meters square or 2,639 square feet, including an attached garage. The general intent of the township official plan has been maintained. The policies do permit the proposed residential use. And the intent of the Alma-Coleman zoning bylaw is maintained. The use is permitted in the RRHL zone and the balance of the regulations are complied with. The proposal maintains the intent of the township's official plan, the county's official plan, the zoning bylaw, and it's consistent with the PPS and the growth plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Members of council, do you have any questions or comments regarding this application? Go ahead, Mike.
To you, Mayor, again, I would just question the archaeological testing because of all the houses down there in the past. So again, I'd like to see some history if there's been any issue or not, whether it's actually needed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. and Mrs. Masrick, you have an opportunity to address council if you'd like.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. I'd like to thank the Deputy Mayor and council for the support for residents regarding the proposed or the expected studies. It's very supportive to hear that because it is an additional thing to stress. I'm not going to dispute anything because we are on a timeline. We do need to proceed if at all possible. So, and as a member of the Arawak Nation, I understand the rights of the Mississauga Nation and certainly respect that. You guys might be a little mad at us because we kind of cut things already on the property because we had a previous property and that's what we did. We thought it was best to clean up the space or maintain the property as something that the neighbors do appreciate. And we didn't realize there would be a request for an archaeological assessment. So hopefully you won't be terribly upset with us for that. And if there's anything we could do to accommodate this mishap, it certainly is our ignorance. We didn't know, as we've done this previously with our property 5 houses away. So hopefully you can forgive us.
It's not a case of forgiving you. You didn't do anything wrong. Thank you. Members of the public, any other comments? I'll read the resolution. That the applicant. Yes. Oh,
Yes, it is from a resident. Did you want to take comments from that?
okay. I'm not seeing that. They're on the. Okay,
Yeah.
so with the person who's online, please state their name and we'll see if we can answer your question.
Good morning, Mayor Logel, Grit Cole speaking. Thank you
you.
for this report. I just have one question. I understand there are lack of water issues in that area regarding wells. So is that something that's been considered in this application? Thank you.
Did you catch that, Tracy?
I did. It wasn't an issue that was raised by the departments and agencies that were circulated. And I understand that the applicants have recently constructed a home, in the vicinity, so perhaps they have some insight on the ability to get water to that newer dwelling.
Okay, you're talking about freshwater grid. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay,
It's for the well so that they can have drinking water.
okay, thank you. Do you have a comment, Mr. and Mrs.? You'll have to come to the mic.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. We had 2 wells on our property next, a few doors down. The water is very low there. We relied on a cistern. We had John Prentice bring us drinking water from the Grafton reservoir, and so that addressed our needs for water when water was very low. And we expect we'll have the same situation here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Mike?
So Mayor, again, I'd like to defer this unless the applicants are willing to accept the archaeological study.
I thought that's what I heard.
They are?
Thank you.
That's what I heard.
I think he's gonna have to come to the mic.
Thank you for the question. Is there someone we can speak with, or someone who's had experience, and who do we actually contact? Because you mentioned how to actually contact someone to get this done. Because no one has any help there.
Actually, I think the planner, that's what our planner does.
Oh. I was- Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
If I may, Tracy, if I could call you back to the mic. Could you please explain to council what the process is? We notify Alderville First Nations and we ask them if they have any archaeological claims to the land subject in question, correct?
We don't get specific in our request. When we get an application, we send it to all departments and agencies with a summary of the proposal, what type of application it is, the location, and details on the proposal. And it's based on that information, they're able to review it based on their criteria and advise us what their requirements are. I can most definitely put the applicants in touch with First Nations. I know they have offered in other instances to provide guidance to applicants.
If I may, Mayor Lovell, Tracy, this is provincial policy, correct?
Correct,
And this is the right of the First Nations people, correct?
correct. And we
Then
have a duty
that-
to consult with them.
Then it is not this council's decision to defer in any way, shape or form what First Nations rights are.
That's
And we
correct.
should not put that in question here. And I want that to be clear.
And Alderville has specifically requested that we circulate them on all applications. So that is what we have been doing.
Here, Catherine?
I just want to thank our acting CAO and our planner for confirming that, and also to Mrs. Masrick who confirmed it as well. I appreciate that.
I'm going to read the motion as provided by staff. That application MV 022024 by Meredith and Sophia Masrick for a property located at 102 North Shore Road, legally described as Lot 15, Plan 370, Concession B, Part Lot 23, geographically in Haldeman, be approved to permit a reduced westerly side yard setback from 6 meters to 3.66 meters and a reduced easterly side yard setback from 6 meters to 2.44 meters for the construction of a single family dwelling with attached garage, conditionally upon submission of an archaeological study site assessment prepared by a qualified professional an archaeologist, and submitted for review. The applicant must provide acknowledgement of the acceptance of the assessment from the Ministry of Citizen and Multiculturalism. Number two, approved by the County of Northumberland of a sewage system design and construction drawings prepared by a licensed sewage system installer or designer in accordance with the Ontario Building Code. Could I get a mover and a second? Moved by Mary Catherine, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Have any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 10. Thank you very much for being here. We're going to reconvene to the municipal planning regular council meeting. That the council of the Township of Allen-McCalderman, being a land division committee or committee of adjustment, reconvene to the municipal planning or regular council meeting at 10:21 a.m. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Booth and seconded by. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Councillor O'Neill, any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. We're going to move on to number 11, which is the Township of Allen-McCalderman Community Risk Assessment presented by Bill Lormier of Lumix Group. Mr. Lormier on the. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Trace?
And we're just waiting, Mr. Does he know he's supposed to be ready, or have we informed him? We'll wait a couple of minutes, then we'll just move on to get a hold of him if we have to. Okay, we'll need a mover and a seconder to move by Councillor Booth and second by Council Ainsworth. All in favor? Carried. We'll go on to item 12.1. Does that have anything to do with the report? I don't believe it does, but that's yours, Dave. Okay. We'll go on to item 12.1, the bylaw enforcement program proposal. And I believe you're going to make a presentation, Dave, or answer any questions or comments regarding your report.
Thank you, Mayor Logo. So the report is as described and informed to council. And if there are any questions with respect to this follow-up, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments from council regarding this report? I'll read the motion. The report bylaw 2024-01 bylaw program implementation and enhanced emergency service operations we received for information, and that council direct staff to implement the plan as presented in the 2024 council report bylaw enforcement plan. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. No, I'm just glad to see this come as a report, and it's long overdue for us, and looking forward to moving forward with it.
Good. And I agree. We have a plan in place.
Yep.
And we may I think it's going to be good. So everybody has a good understanding of what the rules and regulations are. I think we all know that the bylaws may have to be updated in a little bit. Or some, maybe I'll say all, okay. Okay. All in time, in good time, and I'm sure you'll put a priority as to which ones that need to be done first, but that's good. All in favor? But motion is carried. We're gonna move on to Public Works, and the first report is 13-1, correspondence from Larry Spurka, Manager of Water Capital Projects for Lucy regarding the Grafton Drinking Water System for 2023, operational report period from November to December 2023. That report from Lucy regarding the December report period and ministry inspection be received for information. And it's called the Lucy 01-2024 January Grafton Water Committee meeting report. Can I get a mover in a second to bring it on the table? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Booth. Any questions or comments? Mary Catherine?
It's just good to see the province is doing these types of inspections.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Just a comment through you, your worship. Myself and Joan attended the Grafton Water Committee last week, and we just wanted to say that the Ministry of Environment checked 478 individual things for an inspection, and the Grafton Water Committee passed on all 478, 100%. So just a congratulations to them.
I'd like to further comment on that. I don't think that's ever happened before, that where they got 478 without a recommendation or anything from that. So great job by the board and Lucy to handle that for us, and we appreciate it. All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have Parks and Recreation Department reports, and the first one is
Sorry.
13-2.
13-2. Pardon me. The Grafton Drinking Water System 2023 Annual Summary Report. It is recommended the Council of the Township of Elmwood enact as follows. That report CLK 2024-06 Grafton Drinking Water System 2023 Annual Summary Report be received for information. And further, the council accept the 2023 Annual Summary Report as presented and direct staff to place a copy of the report on the township website. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Through your worship, just a comment, and it came up at our meeting last week, and so Emily and Dave know there was a health inspector that inspected ACC, Fenella, Centerton, and Vernonville, and has come forward. Adam's going to come forward with a report that those locations that have UV filters are going to require an improvement, that if the UV filter for some reason does not operate, that there will be a solenoid valve that will close off the water so that you can't use it. And that is separate from the Grafton drinking water. That's not part of the Grafton drinking water. So there's going to be a $20,000 bill or $25,000 bill that has to come out of budget somewhere. So I guess we're going to be waiting for a report to come in the future, Dave or Emily, of how we're going to pay for that. Because that's a town issue, not a Grafton drinking water issue, right? Because those locations are not on the, so just separate from this report, just so that you know.
You mentioned, I think you kind of mentioned the community halls and that type stuff, basically. What about the public works buildings and the fire halls and that type stuff? Are they...
In Adam's report, it just talked about the public areas like the community centers. One of them they mentioned was Fenella. So I'm not sure. Maybe Dave and Emily can look into the other areas, the public works things.
It's possible it could be just public water, but it may also be for everyone.
It's just too bad we wouldn't have had this information from the health inspector before budget time. Now it's going to be after the fact that somewhere we have to come up with $20,000 or $25,000 to pay for it, but it has to be done. But that's a good question, Mayor. I don't.
Yep.
So through your Mayor Logo, Councillor Booth, the fire station specifically, we test the water ourselves. To belong to the testing program that's done for the township comes with I would say a significant cost. We also provide bottled water within the fire stations, and water is also provided for the public works staff. We have tested, I know, Station 3 just recently, and it came back fine. But where there is drinking water or drinking water through any of the taps in any of our buildings through facilities would require these systems. I do know that the ultraviolet system is in Station 3 for sure. And the filter is changed quite regularly.
Go ahead, Mayor Catherine.
Anyway, it is in Centerton, but this current system is just a light that comes on. Listening to Councillor Booth, it sounds like this is another step where the water would be physically turned off rather than the warning light coming on if there was a problem.
Yeah, that's correct. So now instead of somebody seeing the warning light and they decide to still use the water, the solenoid will shut the water off so they can't use the water because there's something wrong with the system. So that's what I understand. Is that correct, Joe?
Through your Mayor Logo. So one of the things that came up when we were discussing this was to get it out of the water board committee and put this discussion somewhere else. So I'm not sure where that would end up, but just listening to our chief administrative officer talking about the testing. So I know that there are testings being done, and so, and I know we're getting off topic, but these tests, are they being sent to the health unit, Dave, for testing, or where you find out the water's safe?
So we send, yeah, it would be the same as you testing the water in your home and you take it to the health.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further discussion? I think you're right that it should be going to, not to the water people, but to the township. That's where the HKPR person should be contacted. And there are lots of changes coming up for water, public water, and private water, and the way the systems that are being done.
It makes sense.
And a comment with that, Mr. Mayor, is the province now too is people that take their well water to HKPR to get it tested. They're not gonna cover that anymore soon. You'll have to pay for it. It's a free service right now, but the province is removing that. So that'll be an expense that next year we'll probably have to budget for then. Because they say it's roughly a $75 cost, so that'll be quite expensive if you're doing it every couple of months.
And through your Mayor
I
Logo.
don't think they cover, I think we pay for that.
Yeah, you
$75.
pay for it. It's only residential that gets it free, not commercial.
Sorry, I think this needs to come back as
Yep.
It'll be a separate report, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor then? Let's carry. Next, we have Parks and Rec Development Department Report. CKL 2024-05 Summer Student Funding Report Request. That report CLK 2024-05 Summer Student Funding be received for information, and that council authorized up to $7,700 to be taken from the Parks and Rec Reserve to fund the remaining wages for the 4 approved parks and recreational summer students positions for the 2024 summer season. And that council authorized up to $2,300 to be taken in from the Public Works Reserve to fund the remaining wages for the 2 approved Public Works summer student positions for the 2024 summer season. Can I get a mover and a second for that? Moved by Councillor Ainsworth. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
So just for clarification, we're basically asking for this money in advance in case we don't get the grant? Is that the way I'm reading it? And if we don't get the grant, we're coming back because some of these positions won't happen then?
Who are you asking that question to?
I'm guess either the CAO or the clerk.
No, to me, and then.
Oh,
and I'll
Mr.
pass it on.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Technically. Thank you, sir. Tracy, do you have a comment on that?
So through, yes, so we're just asking in advance from the reserves, to cover these. So these 6 positions were identified as required for operations to maintain what was we've been providing over the years. So it is in advance from the reserve, just for that funding deficit. We are fingers crossed that we are successful in our grant applications. If we are, then the money that was budgeted for, we'll just go back to the lunch reserves. If we're not, sorry, money that was budgeted through the budget, if we're not successful, then we would see these funds obviously not be replenished in the reserves.
Okay, and then would you be coming back? It's talking about some of the positions that aren't critical. Would you be coming back then to discuss that those ones are not being fulfilled then? They're not the public works ones. I guess they're the ones for in here at town hall.
Could be, yeah. Go ahead.
So, okay, so those remaining 3 positions were 2 programmer summer students to assist with arts grant programming, as well as a horticultural student that were applied for grants. So we were unsuccessful. Just received word last week of the horticultural student, so that position is no longer. But we do receive approval for 2 programmers that not budgeted for, however, grants were applied. So at that point, we would come forward with the first students to make a difference. At that point, that's determine the
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, that's through you, Mayor. Just a question with the students. And I'm just wondering, if we've ever thought about maybe a student for writing grants that maybe need a placement out of something that maybe going to university or college. But I don't think we have anybody right now that's actually taking it on.
I think that probably isn't appropriate for this, questions, and that should come up at the, administrative. Okay,
Okay,
Mary Catherine?
It's just a comment that moving forward, I'd like to see this kind of contingency funding request come forward during the budget discussion.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have the Treasury Department Report 2023, the Audit Planning Report. The Council of the Township of Alma-Culverman acknowledge reading the Audit Planning Report dated March 8th, 2024, prepared by Baker Tilly regarding the 2023 audit, and that council direct the mayor and the deputy mayor or a councillor to complete and sign the acknowledgement section on page 9 of the report. And that's the 2024-0326 audit annual planning report. Mover in a second, moved by.
I'd actually like to move that we go back and do the, what was it? What number? 11.1 at this point.
Oh. Easy. Yeah, we don't need a motion to go back to that. Now that they're here, we're just gonna go back.
All right.
And I believe, Bill is going to make a presentation today. Oh, yeah. I'll wait till, just wait till Bill gets on and we'll give him an announcement that we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
I'm here, your worship.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. We're gonna take a quick 10-minute break and then we'll be back at 20 of 11. Can I get a mover and a seconder to do that?
That's great.
Yeah, I just need a mover and a seconder to go recess. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Motion's carried. We'll see you in 10 minutes, Bill. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, we're back from recess. I'll take a mover and a seconder to return to council. Moved by Counselor Booth, seconded by Counselor O'Neill. All in favor? Motion's carried. Bill, I see your name, so I assume that you're on with us. There he
Yeah.
is.
Yes,
How are you this morning?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Thank you
for.
thank you for joining us, and we'll let you take us through your presentation.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, members of council. Mayor, we have a presentation. Thank you for bringing that up. I can see that everyone can see that presentation there.
Yes,
Perfect. So I'm going to present the community risk assessment. Next slide, please. We have submitted the community risk assessment, and the community risk assessment, or the CRA, is regulated through the provincial legislation, and it is due July 1st, 2024. So the municipality and the fire chief were wise to complete the CRA before the deadline. A CRA identifies and examines the threats to community, or the threats a community is most likely to face. The CRA examines risks from a fire services perspective. That differs from emergency management standpoint. CRAs provide information that municipalities can use to make decisions about the fire protection services they need. Next slide, please. So through legislation, we're required to identify the following profiles. I'm not going to read them to you, but there's different sections of the CRA. Next slide, please. So the CRA identifies risks and has two major categories, the likelihood and the consequences. And we identify it from there. So the OFM stands for the Ontario Fire Marshal, states that a fire department should use professional judgment along with historical information about past incidences to estimate how likely it is for a given emergency to occur. The OFM defines consequence as the potential losses or negative outcomes that result after an emergency occurs. Next slide, please. So the importance of identifying risks, CRA allows municipalities to understand which risks are most likely to occur locally and which are most likely to have serious consequences. After a municipality learns which fire and life safety risks it is most likely to face, it can determine how to manage those risks. If an emergency occurs and a community has not established adequate response protocols, the consequences could include damaged property, tarnished reputations, and lost lives. Next slide, please. So the risk likelihood levels are categorized as rare, unlikely, possible, likely, and almost certain. Next slide, please. And again, the other category is consequence, and that is categorized as insignificant, minor, moderate, major, and catastrophic. Next slide, please. And when we put these together, we're able to make a matrix, which we put each risk in, and we're able to categorize it from there. Next slide, please. So for your municipality, we've identified severe weather event, major rail incident, critical infrastructure failure, and fire in residential occupancies as the highest categories. They're also followed by road or highway incident, fire and explosion in material recovery facility, human health emergency, grass and wildland fire, fire explosion in industrial occupancy, hazardous materials, fire in assembly occupancy, and fire in commercial occupancy. Next slide, please. So once we've identified these risks, we create risk treatment plans. A risk treatment plan or plans are identified or are developed for each identified public safety risk. Risk treatment plans are created by using an evidence-based approach that clearly defines the problems posed by the given risk. Risk treatment plans consider the potential outcomes of proposed actions, assess options, and provide recommendations for addressing a risk identified issues. Risk treatment plans may recommend training, service delivery agreements, resource allocation, or service delivery changes. Next slide, please. Risk treatment plans developed for your municipality recommend at least one of the following risk treatment options: avoid, mitigate, accept, transfer, or share. After reviewing the risk treatment plans, your department should develop and implement programs and services to mitigate each of the identified community risks. Next slide, please. So as we mentioned earlier, we have top safety risks for your municipality. The first one we identified was severe weather event. So mitigating, you can't mitigate obviously the severe weather event, but you can mitigate by continuing to provide public education about the importance of emergency preparedness, including what to do before, during, and after emergencies. You can share by work with applicable external partners to implement public education initiatives that teach residents about emergency preparedness. And again, an example of that is a 72-hour emergency kit. Next slide, please. The next risk is critical infrastructure failure. To mitigate, provide public education about the importance, again, of the 72-hour emergency kit. Continue offering applicable services as required. And share by continuing to work with authorities who maintain critical infrastructure in Onwet Halaman to address any issues. Next slide, please. A major rail event. To mitigate, we continue asking for applicable rail service operators to provide information about the cargo. The fire chief has been very diligent about getting this data. Ask the applicable rail service operators to provide the department's personnel with training about rail incident responses. And share railway incident response duties between the department and applicable rail service operators and applicable external partners. Next slide, please. Fire and residential occupancy, mitigate, conduct inspections of select residential occupancies in the municipality. And these occupancies can include multi-unit residents, hotels, motels, lodging accommodations, to verify that the buildings maintain their code and that's fire code compliance and fire safety planning obligations. Deliver fire safety messaging to all residents of the municipality by providing public education announcements and attending community events. Next slide, please. Now we get into the less severe risks, highway and road incidents. Ensure the department's personnel receive ongoing training about vehicle firefighting, auto vehicle extrication, and hazardous materials responses. And ensure the department's personnel receive ongoing training about responding to incidences that involve electric vehicles. Next slide, please. Fire and explosion in material recovery facility. Ensure that the department has the time resources needed to inspect the material recovery facility in Onwet Halaman complete the pre-incident planning process at the material recovery facility. So pre-incident planning means the department representatives go and inspect the facility to determine a plan if there was an emergency there, and that's done ahead of time. Next slide, please. So the next steps, the fire chief should review and update the CRA annually. Develop a process for collecting and maintaining data to keep the CRA current. Use the CRA to develop for a future strategic planning for the department. Next slide, please. Is there any questions? Comments?
Bill, thank you for your thorough report. I'll make the comment, it's so much easier to understand what's really important and what we need to work on just by seeing the yellow, the green, and the red in that chart. So thank you very much for doing that. I'm going to open it up to questions from council. Anybody have any questions? Deputy Mayor Stover.
Thank you, Mayor Logal, through you. Is this the first one of this kind that we've ever had done?
Through you, Mayor Logal. Bill, that's a question for the fire chief, I think.
Oh,
Yes, this is the very first one that we've ever done.
so we've been in really non-compliance since 2019. Would that be correct?
I'm going to let Bill comment on that because he has the background history of what the community risk assessment is all about.
Thank you.
Can you handle that, Bill?
I think so, yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Chief. Through the mayor. No, in 2019, the legislation was brought out that the deadline is July 1st, 2024. So you would be not in compliant after July 1st, 2024. But the fire chief was diligent about having this process completed before that date.
Thank you. Mayor Local, just one more. It has to do with page 9 of your report, Bill. And I'm just wondering why, or I guess I'm asking why did you pick 150? Like this, you've got 120. Why didn't you stick under the 100 to do your percentages? I'm just wondering why you went to the 150.
Let me bring up the slide.
It just has to do the public safety risks identified in Alma Calderman.
I can answer that, Bill, unless you have the answer right away, unless you're.
Nope. Thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
So through your Mayor Logal, Deputy Mayor, that has to do with a scoring matrix. It's
Yeah.
not actually a percentile. So when they put everything into their chart and identified it, that's how they end up coming up with that.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Logo, just
If
one, oh, sorry.
I could just carry on to that. So that 121, I thought it was 120, but maybe it's 150.
Well, we don't get up to 150.
Okay, and that was my question. Are there other operations or fire halls where you could see it get up to 150, or what is that maximum, I guess? Bill, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, I can take that through you, Mayor. The scoring is about a combination of the consequence and the likelihood. So each municipality will have different numbers. For example, if you had a lumber mill or a milling plant that was not well maintained and they had many fires there, and it would be catastrophic to a small northern town, for example, the number could be much higher. So there isn't really, I don't have comparators to other municipalities, but the numbers are reflective of your unique municipality. So there isn't, the scoring does matter quite a bit, but these are the highest ones for you.
Thank you. Dave, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mayor Lolo. Yes, Deputy Mayor. So the scoring and talking about the likelihood, it has taken data from this fire department over the last about 5 years. And that data is then put into, so when we look at frequency, as an example, a recycling facility, the frequency has been about 1 to 2 fires per year, which regardless of our our pre-plans regardless of our inspections, that fires do just sometimes occur at those types of facilities. So that's why it's given a number that might be higher than others or recognized in the red in this case. So it is a study of our history and the calls that we've been to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Mike,
just,
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
You done, John?
Well, I just had one more and,
We've already had two.
oh,
I'm
I
gonna
just
let-
quickly, it's just that
I'm gonna let Mike go
the
first.
first
Nelson.
two, and that's fine. I don't need to comment anymore.
Okay, Mike, go ahead, please.
Thanks through you, Mayor. So a couple things. I noticed that the farming industry is about 50% of our industry, and I don't see much in there for them with the, you know, with the big corn dryers we got now and the grain elevators, silo rescue, that kind of stuff. Maybe it's in there hidden somewhere. But I'd like to see it in there for maybe one of the emergencies. And when we're talking about the waste facility plant, I guess it's a question of they should train their employees properly through procedures and policies and stuff. Are we asking that we see that they've done that when we talk about making sure that they've gonna go to it here, that they've complied with that?
I'd like to make a quick comment on that. And I was thinking about that too, Mike. That is a new owner of that facility. It's done in the last two months, I guess, 2.5 months. So I think probably the fire department hasn't had an opportunity to be there yet. Maybe they have, but I think they'll be making that as a top priority just to make sure they're following up. You want to comment on that, Dave?
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Mayor Logal. Councilor Ainsworth. So every commercial building that we have in the township through our fire prevention program now must have a fire safety plan. And the business or the commercial entity is required to train their staff on that fire safety plan. And the fire safety plan is a white box with a red stripe that is usually located at a main focal point or a main entrance point to that facility. And contained within that fire safety plan is everything from plans of the building to fire escape plans, additional emergency service requirements, etc. So all of our buildings, I can confer that they are for sure and do have them, and they are reviewed annually currently.
Mike, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I also want, like, would that also be insurance driven? So like a criteria?
So
For fire
through you, Mayor, so we, with respect to an insurance company, they would have to speak directly to their policy that they may have in place. Our requirement for fire safety plans for fire prevention, public education falls under the FPPA, which is obviously completely separate from the insurance company industry. So as far as our level of fire prevention pre-plan, I know the building's been pre-planned every year for the last 2. I do believe that we meet our requirement. Specifically, the community risk assessment identifies to the public, to council, to the fire department, the risks that we have at hand based on a study of our information. And then it also identifies where we need to plan for the future. When you receive the report from Lumex with respect to our master fire plan, that's where you'll probably get into a little bit more of the details of how this all works together.
Okay,
Thank you, Dave.
Is that fair? Sorry, Mayor Lowell, is that fair, Bill?
Through you, Mary, absolutely. And I'd like to add about the risks. These are risks. The CRA identifies more risk for the community in comparison to an individual. For example, a house fire isn't really high on the list, although that would be devastating to a family or individuals if there is a house fire. But this is identifying more about a community risk and what would be in general. And so I agree with you, Chief. The fire master plan will address that a little bit more, which was coming up in the future, near future.
Thank you, Bill. Any more questions or comments from council?
I was just gonna make the same comment about the fire farms is a specific risk in this community. But the fact that it's not on the list means that the farmers have been doing an excellent job and not been having fires. So that's good.
Thank you. You have another comment,
Oh,
Mayor?
thank you, Mayor Vogel. I guess the biggest risk that we have is the climate change. And I bring it back to 2 years ago, a year ago Christmas, when everything that could go wrong went wrong. And how we learned from that so we can get through these devastated events. And where we don't have any casualties. So that was just my only other comment. And I see they're the two top ones, so they've been addressed.
Good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Bill, I have a couple things. The risk training plan. Quite often you recommend that we mitigate. That'll prevent it from happening. And I think as I read that, there's a lot of times where you've made the comment that we are doing stuff and we continue to improve or lessen the chance of those things happening. So am I right in saying that we've got some good plans in place, we just gotta continue to make them stronger?
Yes, and we'll address this more in the fire master plan. But we have been impressed with the fire chief and his initiatives and his abilities to look at this and these issues prior to our arrival, and to be able to look at have a plan in place. So, for example, gathering information about from rail shippers, having that information, understanding how the fire chief can get that information was already well organized prior to our arrival. So that's a good example where that has already been mitigated. It is a hazard. Should be in here, but many of the things in the community risk assessment and the fire master plan, the fire chief has been diligent in addressing prior to.
That's a kudos for you, David. Hope you realize that. Any further questions for Bill? Mike, you got one left?
Yes, to you, Mayor. Back to the farming. So some of these farmers have like 2,000-liter propane tanks for their dryers and stuff. Again, with that whole thing, I'd like to, just kind of put that out there, maybe see that addressed. That would be
If I may, through you, Mayor Logan, Councilor Ainsworth, I'll add a little bit to that. The reason that you're not seeing the agricultural industry here on it is because we've had very little response. And a lot of the responses, not a lot, some of the responses in the agriculture fall under the low frequency, low risk category. And that's why you don't actually see them on the chart. When we get into silos, as mentioned, or grain bins, as an example, talking about rescue situations, that's actually a very specific rescue operation that's identified by NFPA 1006 in the technical rescue program. And you'll find that there are no fire departments within Northumberland County that are trained to that level. That would be a requirement that needs to be in place by 2028, should departments choose to do that. The community risk assessment also prompts us to do a review, which is something the OFM is asking for, of our ENR bylaws, so that we understand the level of service that we're providing, and we understand to what technical aspect we're providing that service. That ties a big loop back into Ministry of Labor requirements with health and safety, and what we're actually putting our firefighters or committing our firefighters to do. So the majority of it, when we look at the plans identified in the community risk assessment, are around the prevention side, the mitigation side prior to the emergency happening. And so most of our time and effort ends up going into prevention, public education, and training. The fun stuff is driving down the road in the red flashy truck, but we have to spend the majority of the time in the other areas, and that's what this identifies. And it also provides clear direction as to where the fire department should be concentrating their efforts. So it gives us some goals to go forward with.
Okay. Mayor?
Last one.
Oh, you're
Well-
on to number 4.
Well, this is important. This whole thing is important.
It
So-
certainly is.
Do we have any kind of avenue for the CFB Trenton? So say the county forest caught on fire. You don't have enough to help put it out. Do we have some kind of a line of communications that they would help out
Yes, we would have
in this
to.
plan?
In
Or
my
even-
opinion, we'd have to call an emergency.
Mhm.
The township would have to call an emergency. We call the premier's office or who's ever handling that, and they would assist us.
Okay.
So I can, through your mayor, I can provide a very specific answer to that. So there are many plans in place with respect to the regional forest for forest fires. There has been training through the MNR. So it's Ministry of Natural Resources that we would ultimately contact. But the way that that works right across the province is we have mutual aid coordinators. So currently it's Chief Thompson from Brighton is the mutual aid coordinator and Chief Ogden from Port Hope is the backup. And in the event that we would have a significant event, we make a phone call to that coordinator. It actually happens automatically. So as soon as we have something that's significant, and this is in any area, house fire or a major structure fire, major loss, significant emergency, we notify Peterborough Dispatch, our incident commanders do, that we request mutual aid and what we request for mutual aid. Then that response automatically sends a phone call to our mutual aid coordinator. And then our mutual aid coordinator all of a sudden becomes into action and starts placing and moving different fire departments, apparatus, manpower, man and women power, firefighters, around the different stations to ensure that the county is covered. And that happens in each individual municipality all automatically within that. So then phone calls will go out to the Ministry of Natural Resources if it had to do with Northumberland County, and then they would actually be the ones to contact somebody like CFB for air support, water, different types of things like that. So it's a whole chronological order step that there are plans in place for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bill, thank you very much for taking the time to present your report. We appreciate it. And sounds like we're going to hear from you not from too long again.
Yes, yes, with the fire master plan, and these two documents are well linked, so
Yes. Okay, have a safe afternoon.
thank you for having me.
Okay. We'll go back into council, and I believe that we're going to start with 15.1, which is the Treasury Department report. Oh, to receive the report. Yeah. Thank you, Yolanda. I'll go back and get the right one. That the Township of Alma Calderman Community Risk Assessment Presentation by Lumex Group be received for information. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councilor O'Neill and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Now we're going on to the Treasury Department report. I'll read the resolution that Council of the Township of Alma Calderman acknowledge reading the audit planning report dated March 8th, 2024, prepared by Baker Tiller regarding the 2023 audit, and that council direct the mayor and the deputy mayor or councillor to complete and sign the acknowledgement section on page 9 of the report. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor O'Neill.
And I'd say the deputy mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by the deputy mayor.
Well, I guess I would retract that. Can I?
Probably it should be coming from somebody else. Is anybody else okay with that? Seconded by Councilor Booth. And that is the mayor and the deputy mayor sign that report. All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we go on to council remuneration. That the council of the Township of Allen McCullough receive the information from the report on 2023 council remuneration and expenses. Are you mover and a seconder? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Booth. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
I do believe, and I know that the treasurer is already investigating, that there is an inaccuracy in that report around the conference expenses for myself and Councillor Ainsworth. And she's going to get that sorted out, but those numbers I don't believe are accurate.
Okay, so she's gonna,
Yeah, there was a confusion on registration when it happened, and I think it's just carried forward. And it looks like the amount for both of us to register for the conference is showing up in both of ours, whereas it should only be
one of each.
one of each.
Okay,
Correct. So the treasurer is aware and will be looking into that.
okay. All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have the public salary section salary disclosure that the council of the Township of Allen McCullough received for information, the 2023 public sector salary disclosure report. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor O'Neill. Seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have administrative reports, CLK 2024-04, Northumberland OPP Detachment Police Service Board Community Appointments. And this is a long one. That report, CLK 2024-04, Police Services Board Committee Appointments. The Municipality of Brighton and the Municipality of Trent Hills correspondence regarding Police Services Board amalgamation we received for information, and that Lou Rinaldi and Eric Kroll be appointed by law as the community members of the Northumberland OPP Detachment Board until the end of the 2022 to 2026 term of council, and that the 2024 budget funds for the Township of Allen McCullough's Police Service Board be allocated towards the township's share of the Northumberland OPP Detachment Board once formed, and that the municipal clerk advise Alderville First Nation, the municipality of Trent Hills, the municipality of Brighton, the township of Crammy, and the township of Hamilton of council's decision. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any questions or comments? I'll make a real quick comment. Just so you know, there are 5 members of the board that are elected. There are, pardon me, actually, yes, I'll still stick with that. The 6th one is from Alderville First Nation. There is 2 appointed by our group, and we had applications from Lou Rinaldi and Eric Kroll to do that. We did ask our previous board members, and they were not interested in joining this. And the province will announce the appointment of 2 other people. That's up to them. So that's where you end up with a total of 10. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
To your Mayor Logo, when is the province going to be putting their names forward? Because I thought I seen somewhere where there was a date this all had to be in place for.
It's not going to be in place till April the 1st of 2024. Which is less than a week.
That's what I was wondering.
And I'm sure the province will get at it as soon as they possibly can. But we're still, after April 1st, we're still a board, and we'll be progressing with 6 of the 8 board. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have communications. We have a motion to receive the communications. It is recommended the council of the corporation of the township of Allen McCullough enact as follows. The agenda items 18-2 to 18-6 on the March 26, 2024 municipal planning regular council meeting agenda be received for information. The first one is 17-2. Northumberland County Municipal Road Operators Course. Number 3 or 17-3 is regarding the Rotary Club of Colburn, loss of forestry. Number 17-14 is the Township of Amaratha. I don't think that's quite right. Pardon me. Amaranth. Thank you. Pause Highway 413 additional municipal funding, infrastructure funding. Number 17-5 Town of Lincoln Library and Museum funding. 17-6 Northumberland County Social Eclipse.
Solar,
Pardon me.
solar.
Pardon me. I'll get it again, Frank. For information and the council authorize and so I gotta get a mover in a second. If you want to talk about any of these, then we'll do that. Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Booth. Are there any ones you want to talk about specifically? Yes, go ahead, Joan.
I wanted to pull out 17.3, the Rotary Club of Colburn, the loss of forestry, and their willingness and look like they're needing help too to plant the trees. So I just wanted to see where we're able to help in that one.
Yeah, I think they're looking for not only some help, but where we could plant 100 trees and that type of stuff. And I think if staff would take that on for us, they'll have a recommendation. And once we know that, then we'll be able to volunteer if you so desire. Is that okay?
I just had one more question too. I'm just wanting to make sure that they, and I'm sure they have done the research into what trees are best for this area.
Yeah, I think they're asking for native, what they say,
Mhm.
native trees.
Yep.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments on this specific one? Can I get a motion then that we send that back to staff for report back to where you recommend the trees be put? You're gonna make that recommendation? Okay.
Oh, well, whatever. I
Okay.
can pass it or make the motion.
Are you gonna make the motion?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess just for clarity, so that motion that staff be directed for location or report back.
No, I think you're first. Thank you.
Can I get a seconder for that? Seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion's carried. Anyone else that wants to pull any of these? Mary Catherine?
I'd like to pull out 17.5 and make a motion to support the increase for library funding. It's been frozen for 15 years, and in fact, they added some new expenses to libraries within that 15 years. So anyway, given that, I think I'd like to support this motion.
Can I get a seconder for that? Seconded by Councilor Booth. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Anything else? I guess maybe not, I don't know if it's a motion or not, but I just want to make sure that regarding Northumberland County and the solar eclipse, I've sat at a couple of HKPR meetings and, you know, they are concerned about the people looking at the sun as a possible way of injury, but that's not their major concern. The major concern is we're going to have an awful lot of people here to see that. And I think the report said something about up to 47 million people that could be able to drive to see that. But we're not going to have all here in Grafton.
Look out.
Get ready.
We're not going to be all here in Grafton. But at the same time, I understand that if you're looking for a hotel room or anything else like that, they've been booked up for weeks now. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. And I don't know, if you're planning anything special, Dave?
I'm planning for a cloudy day.
Okay.
No, the emergency management group of the county, through Colleen's efforts has been, putting lots of plans in place. And doing their due diligence with respect to emergency management. So things are underway, plans are in place, and, we hope it won't be, what is speculated.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Can I get a vote to receive that information? All in favor? Carry. We're gonna move on to,
Sorry, Mayor Logal.
yes,
No one spoke to 17.4. Could I speak to that then?
sure.
I'd also, I also feel it would be worthwhile to support this motion. I think directing money to rural roads would be better than directing money to 413, but I leave that to fellow councillors whether they want to go in on this.
You want to make a motion that we do that then?
Sure, I'll make the motion if anybody, that we support this. Just a second.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Booth. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we're going to move on to bylaws, and the first one is bylaw 18-1, bylaw number 26, 2024, to appoint members of council to council staff coordinator meetings. That bylaw number 26-2024 being a bylaw to appoint members of council to council staff coordinator meetings be given a first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 26th day of March 2024. Mover in a second. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 27, 2024, Northumberland OPP Detachment Community Representatives Appointments. That bylaw 27, 2024, being a bylaw to appoint community representatives to the Northumberland OPP Detachment Police Services Board be given a first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 26th day of March 2024. Can I get mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Councillor Booth. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. I have announcements and notices of motion. I have three quick ones. Today is National Autism Day. And it's a day you can wear purple if you so desire. I don't think I have to say anything about that. I think it's. I received two letters this morning and I thought you should be aware of it, and I will send them on to the coordinators meeting. One is from an individual who lives in Niagara Falls, I believe, and he is taking a walking tour from Niagara Falls to Ottawa in recognition of his son who passed away due to a mental health issue. And he will be coming through Grafton on Saturday. It's going between the 19th and 31st of May, and he will be coming through Grafton at 11 p.m. and that 11 a.m. and that Saturday morning. I think it's the 29th or the 30th, but I'm not sure. And finally, I received a note from the office of Mr. Puccini this morning, and I'll pass this again on to the for administration to look at. Not administration, but the administrators coordinator meeting for the senior award. And the province picks one person from the township or each municipality as the senior awards person winner. And we have to submit, someone has to submit names, so we'll pass that on to the coordinators meeting and they can handle that for us. Deputy Mayor Stover, do you have anything to contribute?
Not a lot. Just would like to wish everybody happy Easter with the season coming up and the holiday as well. It was a very good and well-attended Northumberland Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. And it was nice to see the growth in the business area. And it was good to see the winners that won the categories and also the other people that were nominated because that's a huge feat in itself. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsworth,
Nothing at this time, Eric.
thank you. Councillor O'Neill,
I had the privilege of being part of the March for Meals with Community Care last Thursday, which was very enjoyable. And the meals are prepared at the Keeler Center and they are delivered. And I've joined our regular volunteer Mike, and then also Mike Gibson from the Community Care van was with us. So I was the three of us out on tour, delivering hot meals in the Haldeman section essentially of our municipality. And I also learned that there are not hot meals delivered in the Alnwick area, but there are some frozen meals delivered up there. And I concur with Deputy Mayor Stover that it was a very good event at the Business Awards. And yes, numerous local businesses were nominated, and it was nice to see our town crier recognized for his effort and commitment with the organization.
thank you, Mayor Catherine. Councillor Booth,
Nothing at this time.
thank you. Okay, that concludes this portion of the open meeting, and we'll be moving on to a closed session. I'm going to read the recommendation and then we'll allow staff to close down the meeting and we can go into closed. That the municipal planning regular council meeting of March 26, 2024 move into a closed session at 11:35 p.m. under the Municipal Act, Section 239 2B for personal matters about an identifiable individual, for labor relations or employee negotiations, for litigation or potential litigation, for advice that is subject to a solicitor-client privilege, and a position, plan, procedure, or criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the municipality or local board. And that's regarding staff matters, advisory committee appointments, Roseneath property matters. And all right, so all mover to seconder. Moved by Councillor O'Neill and pardon me, Councillor Ainsworth, and second by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Motion's carried. You're going to go into get it set up.